Good morning, everyone. I will report the introduction about evolution of Philippine Constitution. Evolution of Philippine Constitution. Introduction about Philippine Constitution. The Philippine Constitution is the constitution or supreme law of the Republic of the Philippines. It is the basic principles and laws of a nation, state, or social group that determine the powers and duties of the government and guarantee certain rights to the people in it. A written instrument embodying the rules of a political or a social organization. Philippine Constitution, often called the Freedom Constitution. This constitution was intended as a transitional constitution to ensure democracy and the freedom of the people. The Freedom Constitution provided for an orderly transfer of power while a constitutional commission was drafting a permanent constitution. There was constitution issued. The first one is the 1899 Malolos Constitution. Second one, the 1935 Constitution and 1973 Constitution and the 1997 Constitution. That's all. Thank you.
Ang Political Constitution ng 1899 o mas kilala bilang Malolos Constitution ay ang unang konstitusyong itinatag sa Pilipinas maging sa buong mundo. Ito ay ginawa upang magkaroon ng revolusyon laban sa mga Espanyol. Ito ay ipinoklama sa Malolos, Bulacan noong ika-21 ng Enero 1899 hanggang taong 1901. Nang dakpin si Emilio Aguinaldo ng mga Amerikano kung saan natigil ang unang republika. Ang 1899 Constitution ay isinulat ni Felipe Calderon y Roca at Felipe Bencamino, kung saan si Calderon ay kilala bilang isang abogado, politician at ang ama ng Malolos Constitution. Ang Political Constitution may tatlong sangay ang Malolos Constitution. Una, legislative kung saan ito ay mas mataas na kapangyarihan sa gobyerno. Ang Kongreso ay responsable sa paggawa ng mga batas para sa pagbabago ng konstitusyon. Ito ay bumubuo ng dalawang main documents na tinatawag na bills and resolutions. Ang kalagahan nito sa gobyerno ay para maorganisa ang lipunan at pagprotekta sa mga mamamayan nito. May tatlong Pangalawa, jurisdiction. Ito ay isang kapangyarihan para magdesisyon ng mga itinatawag nating legal cases. Ang Superior Court ay may kapangyarihan para itama ang legal errors na nagawa ng mga lower court. Importante ito dahil limitado ang kapangyarihan sa korte. Pangatlo at panghuli, executive. Ito ay grupo ng mga tao na may otoridad sa isang organisasyon. Ang silbi nito ay mag-enforce ng law para ma-maintain ang organisasyon ng isang bansa. Importante ito sapagkat responsable ito sa pag-implement ng law and policies concerning its work. Mga dapat tandaan sa aking report. So, ang Malolos Constitution ay ang pinakaunang konstitusyong itinatag sa Pilipinas maging sa buong mundo. Ito ay noong First Republic of the Philippines noong 1899 na ipinoklama sa Malolos, Bulacan noong January 21. Ito ay sinulat ni Felipe Calderon at ang kasama niya na si Felipe Bencamino, kung saan si Calderon ay kinikilala bilang ama ng Malolos Constitution. So may tatlong sangay ang Malolos Constitution. Una, legislative, pangalawa, jurisdiction, ikatlo ay ang executive. Sa una, ito ay ang mga gumagawa ng batas. Sila may kapangyarihan sa gobyerno. Ang jurisdiction naman, ang kapangyarihan nila ay ang magdesisyon sa tinatawag nating legal cases, samantalang ang executive naman ay ang mga grupo ng tao na may otoridad sa isang organisasyon katulad ng police forces. Yun lang po, salamat.
Hello everyone, our topic in Group 3 is all about social, political, economic, and cultural issues in the Philippine history, evolution of the Philippine Constitution. Now, I'm going to discuss about the 1935 Constitution of the Philippines. The 1935 Constitution was written by Claro M. Recto. Claro M. Recto, an expert in constitutional law, headed the convention that drafted the 1935 Charter. 1935 Constitution was created in accordance with the establishment of the Commonwealth Republic. The 1935 Constitution of the Philippines was written in 1934, approved and adopted by the Commonwealth of the Philippines from 1935 to 1946, and later used by the Third Republic from 1946 to 1972. Tidings-McDuffie Law of 1934 caused drafting the 1935 Constitution. The Tiding-McDuffie Act allowed the drafting of this Constitution. The 1935 Constitution created the Philippine Commonwealth and was the direct cause of the independent Philippine government from 1946 to 1973, and therefore was called the Commonwealth Constitution. Effectivity was halted during the Japanese occupation but continued in 1946 until 1972. During the World War II, the Japanese-sponsored government nullified the 1935 Constitution and appointed Preparatory Committee on Philippine Independence to replace it. The 1943 Constitution was used by the Second Republic with Jose P. Laurel as president. The Constitution had to be approved by the President Franklin D. Roosevelt. During the drafting of the Commonwealth Constitution, the delegates were not given much freedom to draft whatever they wanted. Franklin D. Roosevelt, the United States President at that time, had to approve whatever the convention drafted. As a result, the 1935 Constitution strongly resembled the United States Charter. The only difference between the two was that the government was unitary rather than federal. Local government being subject to general supervision by the President, and the President being able to declare an emergency and temporarily exercise near dictatorial power. This latter provision was used by Marcos after September 1972 when he declared martial law. The 1935 Constitution ratified on May 14, 1935. Some features are establish the Commonwealth government, provided a democratic and republican government, and inclusion of the Bill of Rights. On March 23, 1935, as you can see on this picture, seated left to the right was George H. Dern, Secretary of War. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signing the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Philippines, while Manuel L. Quezon was the President. The 1935 Constitution of the Philippines, which created the Commonwealth of the Philippines, was based on the principle of the separation of powers among the three branches of government. Executive power is vested to the President, which shall serve for a single 6-year term. Legislative power is vested in a unicameral National Assembly, and judicial power is exercised by the Supreme Court. Accordingly, the 1935 Constitution was written with an eye to meeting the approval of the United States government, so as to ensure that the U.S. would live up to its promise to grant the Philippine independence. It was also on this day in 1910 that the Commissioner to the U.S. House of Representatives, Manuel L. Quezon, delivered an eloquent speech in the United States Congress, pleading for Philippine independence. So, that is all about the evolution of the Philippine Constitution 1935.
Constitution 1973 o Saligang Batas ng 1973. Ano nga ba ang Constitution 1973? Ang Constitution 1973 ay tinatawag na Supreme Law of the Philippines. Pinagtibay ito noong panahon ni Ferdinand Marcos. This Constitution submitted January 10 to 15, 1973 to the Citizens' Assembly to ratify by means of viva voce vote in place of secret ballots. Nilagdaan ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos at nagkaroon ng bisa ang konstitusyon na ito noong taong January 17, 1973. Kahit napagtibay na ang konstitusyon na ito, pilit pa ding hinahadlangan o hinaharang ni Chief Justice Roberto V. Concepcion dahil sa case ni Javellana v. Executive Secretary na nagsasabi na nagkaroon daw ng panloloko sa pag-ratify ng Constitution 1973 sa Assembly ng mga Citizens. Kahit sinabi na nila na mayroong panlolokong naganap sa pag-ratify ng Constitution 1973, hindi pa rin naging sapat iyon para hindi maituloy. Naging valid pa at enforce ang Constitution 1973. Constitution 1973 ay isang parliamentary form of government. Kung dati ay presidential form of government, pero nung si Marcos na napalitan niya ito ng parliamentary form of government. Parang gusto niya siya lang yung boss, ganun. Sa parliamentary kasi mas angat yung executive power kaysa sa dalawang branches. Kasi meron na tinatawag na 3 branches of government sa Philippines. Legislative, judiciary, and executive. Sa tatlong yon, sa panahon ni Marcos, executive yung pinakamataas. Parang gusto niya, siya yung masusunod, parang bossy, ganun. Kaya, di ba, nung martial law, parang dictatorship, ganun. Kumbaga, hindi niya sinusunod or hindi siya nakikinig sa opinion ng mga nasa judiciary at saka legislative. Gusto niya, siya lang, parang kunyari sa grupo, bida-bida, ganun. 1973 Constitution composed of preamble and 17 articles. 1973 Constitution Articles. Article 1, National Territory. Article 2, Declaration of Principles and State Policies. Article 3, Citizens. Article 4, Bill of Rights. Article 5, Duties and Obligations of Citizens. Article 6, Suffrage. Article 7, the President and Vice President. Article 8, the National Assembly. Article 9, the Prime Minister and the Cabinet. Article 10, the Judiciary. Article 11, Local Government. Article 12, the Constitutional Commissions. Article 13, Accountability of Public Officers. Article 14, the National Economy and the Patrimony of the Nation. Article 15, General Provisions. Article 16, Amendments. Article 18, Transitory Provisions. Noong nagkaroon ng democracy taong 1986, President Corazon C. Aquino issued Proclamation No. 3 suspending certain provisions of the 1973 Constitution and promulgating instead a transitory constitution. At dahil kay President Cory C. Aquino at sa People Power Revolution, natigil ang martial law.
Our topic is social, political, economic, and cultural issues in the Philippine history. Evolution of the Philippines. The 1987 Philippine Constitution. Introduction. Every state has had a constitution of some kind, whether it can be an elaborate document or just a collection of rules. It is inconceivable how a state could exist or survive without a constitution of some form. The foundation of the system of government of the Philippines is the Constitution. Now, we will going to discuss the 1987 Philippine Constitution. Preamble. We, the sovereign Filipino people, imploring the aid of Almighty God, in order to build a just and humane society and establish a government that shall embody our ideals and aspirations, promote the common goods, conserve and develop our patrimony, and secure to ourselves and our prosperity the blessings of independence and democracy under the rule of law in a regime of truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and peace, do ordain and promulgate this Constitution. The 1987 Philippine Constitution has 18 articles. Article 1, National Territory. Article 2, Declaration of Principles and State Policies. Article 3, Bill of Rights. Article 4, Citizenship. Article 5, Suffrage. And Article 6, the Legislative Department. Article 7, the Executive Department. Article 8, the Judicial Department. Article 9, Constitutional Commissions. Article 10, Local Government. Article 11, Accountability of Public Officers. Article 12, National Economy and Patrimony. Article 13, Social Justice and Human Rights. Article 14, Education, Science and Technology, Arts, Culture, and Sports. Article 15, the Family. Article 16, General Provisions. Article 17, Amendments and Provisions. Article 18, Transitory Provisions. The framing and ratification of the 1987 Philippine Constitution. On April 1986, President Aquino issued Proclamation Number 9, creating a constitutional commission to draft a new constitution as provided for in the Freedom Constitution. President Corazon C. Aquino addressed the opening session on June 2, 1986 at the former Batasang Pambansa building. Debates and heated arguments took place. On October 12, 1986, the Constitutional Commission finished its work, and the draft of the said Constitution was submitted to the President on October 15, 1986. And on February 2, 1987, a plebiscite for the Charter's ratification was held. 76.37% yes votes and 22.65% no votes. On February 2, 1987, the new Constitution was ratified and made effective. Significant features of the Constitution: sovereignty of the people. Second, supremacy of civilian over the military. And last, separation of powers. Sovereignty of the people. Article 2, Section 1. The Philippines is a democratic and republican state. Sovereignty resides in the people, and all government authority emanates from them. Supremacy of civilian authority over the military. Section 3. Civilian authority is at all times supreme over the military. The Armed Forces of the Philippines is the protector of the people and the state. Its goal is to secure the sovereignty of the state and the integrity of the national territory. The 1987 Constitution established a representative democracy with power divided among three separate and independent branches of government. Separation of powers. Branches of government. Executive Department. The President implements or approves laws. Legislative Department. Congress enact laws. Judicial Department. Supreme Court decide cases. The 1987 Constitution. This new Constitution was drafted in 133 days by an appointed Constitutional Commission of 48 members and ratified by the people in a plebiscite held on February 2, 1987. On February 11, 1987, through Proclamation Number 58, Aquino announced the results of the plebiscite and proclaimed the 1987 Philippine Constitution ratified. It took effect the same day. President Quezon Aquino, in April 1986, created, through Proclamation Number 9, the 1986 Constitutional Commission, CONCOM, which was responsible for drafting a replacement for the 1973 Constitution. The new Constitution, she said, should be truly effective of the aspirations and ideals of the Filipino people. Fast facts. Did you know that for every change in the Constitution in the Philippines, the President released a proclamation to commemorate the date when the new charter took effect? This day is called Constitution Day. The purpose of 1987 Constitution, often called the Freedom Constitution. This constitution was intended as a transitional constitution to ensure democracy and the freedom of the people.